Call to order our April 4th, 2022 briefing meeting of the Mason County Board of Commissioners. We'll begin with support services. Items for us.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
We're going to get started with Jen and Arpa. I think she's going to share her screen. Glad to see Kelly's out there working on the job site for Building 10. Good job.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, I'll share my screen if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here is the current ARPA funding master list. This is a little bit different, or looks a little bit different than what's in your packet, since I colored in some areas that I felt needed some attention. So I wanted to start by, let's go over at the bottom here. We currently have available to allocate of our $6,484,451 that we received last June. We have $236,165 left to allocate out of that funding. And so up here, I highlighted some things that we needed to go over. In the darker pink, the Belfair water customer arrearages and the Mason County utility arrearages, and then also the design for the second floor prosecuting attorney's office. I'm sorry, no, that's the MCSO 100,000. Those are no longer relevant requests for ARPA funding. And so I want to ask the commissioners if you are okay with us putting those items that are no longer an ask on a separate tab and removing them from the ARPA spreadsheet.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, perfect. And that way we can still kind of track things that are no longer requests, but they won't be cluttering up the ARPA spreadsheet here. So the second thing I wanted to go over are in this light, whatever color that is, beige, I guess. The MCSO second floor expansion, 800,000, and the ballot sorter machine, 1.2 million. And then the PUD3 rural broadband for the Quaquallum community, 500,000. So those three items have a note that they're on hold here. And so I don't believe that they're relevant asks anymore, but I wanted to ask you, commissioners, if you want to keep those items on this spreadsheet, or have these people go through the request process that we're going to be presenting in just a moment.
So just a quick question and a comment, Jen. So I did have a conversation with the undersheriff about the second floor, and I think it's fine to pause that one for now. But I do think that as we start looking at capital budget requests for next session, that we should be thinking about teeing that up for some capital support. And then on the other two items, is there any particular reason that they're no longer, I don't want to say not needed, but not needed to be on this list? Do we get new information?
I'm not positive on the ballot mail sorter, the 1.2 million, or the 500,000 for the Quaquallum community. I believe that they may have received other funding. Mark might have more information on the PUD3, the broadband.
Yeah, they had applied for some other funding opportunities to help them out with that project, and I was waiting to hear if they're successful in that or not.
Great.
I believe the ballot sorter was too large for the room that they're in. So I think that one was supposed to they're holding off on that one until we can figure out where we can put them. See if we can find a new building or something for them.
Gotcha. Okay, that all makes sense. Thank you.
So then we'll keep those items on the request list then for now. Is that what I'm hearing?
Say that again, Jen. Mark, I see your hand.
We'll keep these items on the list for now. On the request list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, if they're getting other funding or there are other options, then if we can put them on with the other items that we just moved, maybe if they're no longer in need of ARPA money or there are other issues, I'm fine moving it over to the other list. Commissioners?
As am I.
Sharon, I'm sorry, I think, did you say?
Oh, I said, yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Mark?
A quick update. Kelly Frazier and I met with Patty McGuire and Marie last week to talk about space for elections. They still would like to get a sorter, but they are actually working through some options with the company that provides sorters here in Washington State the most. So they're kind of a unique machine, and they are coming out with some additional options that would be more conducive to smaller counties. Sometimes those ballot sorters, although they're super effective and they work really well, they can take up a pretty large footprint, and smaller counties didn't really need all of the different bins that they had on the old ones. And according to Patty, they're coming out with some additional options that would have less sorter bins, which would work best for a county like Mason.
So they're going to make a coupe version to go with their four-door sedan, huh?
Exactly.
Great.
And maybe a lesser price tag if there's less bins.
We can only hope.
Yeah. Okay. So then the last part of these highlighted items, the yellow, these are still requests. And so I wanted to go over these with you, commissioners. The Housing Authority arrearages, $123,545. And that's such a specific, there's a couple of these items that have such specific numbers. But anyway, that is still a request. So I wanted to see if you want to have these open items, have the applicants, apply on the criteria that we're going to present. Is that kind of the idea?
So the Housing Authority one, that is specifically the actual numbers to try and keep the people in the apartments for arrearages. That's why it's a weird number. They actually did the math for each one individually.
Okay.
Commissioner Owen, do you know, has that number changed at all? I mean, it's been a few months since we've had the conversation about it. Do you know if it's changed at all?
Yeah, I'm sure it changes somewhat, but I'm sure it will also change, just like every other one, like PUD or the other ones we put forward. If we have a criteria, and I always think we should have a criteria, some of that's going to fall off anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not going to meet the criteria, or they're not going to give the documentation or whatever, and then they'll be asked to leave.
Yeah, I guess I just meant in terms of, has that been kind of compounding over the past few months, or do you know if
I think
folks are paying?
Yeah, I think the entity that they're working with is not collecting the funds like they're supposed to. So I don't think we're anything we've seen is showing that they're paying. No, but I don't think the number changes because this was as of an end date for COVID, if I remember correctly, and how they created it.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I think the other one on there, the public health message board. Did I hear that we bought those already with other funds?
That's what I heard also.
I think they have two and they purchased those through different, oh, there's Dave.
Hey, yeah, so I did buy one before with CARES Act funding, and then we're gonna purchase another one, but we don't need the ARPA funds to do it.
Okay, great. So I'll take that off and move it over on the other tab with the other pink items.
And on the signing bonus for correction deputies, I'm very much in support of that, as you remember, but from last we heard, I'm not sure that it was actually being utilized.
So I do have an update on that from the sheriff's office, and they are wanting to ask for 45 to 70,000, but they're not sure, how much they'll need. And Mark and I were actually just talking about this morning, and I mean, it's so subjective. We don't know, when people are going to be hired, if they'll stay, and we have to have this money obligated by December 31st, 2024, and then spent by December 31st, 2026. And so what does that mean, right? If it's obligated, does it mean we have to have them hired by December 31st, 2024? And then, is the December 31st, 2026 date going to work? I don't know. There's just a lot of variables there. So maybe it would be better to utilize or to pay for something else with these ARPA funds. Just a thought.
So I don't disagree with that. I think certainly the list is larger than the funding available. So I don't think we'll have a problem finding something that would work with that necessarily. But I also think that we can control the period of time in which signing bonuses or retention bonuses are offered. I mean, we can shut that spigot off when we want versus having to just hang it out there throughout the life of ARPA. And, if we wanted to say, we're going to do a signing bonus, effective until, whatever, April 1st, 2023, higher before then, I think that would probably solve that problem. So I'm not as concerned about that, but if there are other ways that we can go about handling the signing and potential retention bonuses, then that's fine too. I just think we can bookend it so that we're not worrying about the deadlines.
Commissioner, another option might be to, because it sounds like Jennifer's bringing forward some structure and for reapplication and stuff. Another way to do that may be to pay out the ones we did that we've already done or are in the process of doing. I saw Mark hold his fingers up as though there was a few of them that have been done and gone through the process, that we pay that out of this, what we have for the funds we have available immediately. The Housing Authority, I would recommend 100,000 right now. If they have more, they can reapply for the other with the next round, and maybe 75,000 on the prosecutor's office, and that still gets us below what we have available. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's fair. Commissioner Trask, do you have anything, or Mark, do you want to go if she doesn't?
Yeah, no, I'm wondering if the Housing Authority, if we can just check with Frank, he might have a good idea of where they're at on that and give us a better number. I agree with the corrections deputies. I think that's something that's workable. And then the prosecutor's second floor expansion. I don't know if you guys have been over there or not, but man, it looks really good. Kelly and the crew, they are just amazing. They've saved us quite a bit and they did a great job. Feel bad for them having to carry all those desks upstairs though. But yeah, all of that sounds good. What's the Dcd Records Archival?
So that is them hiring additional staff, and I believe some hardware and capital as well to get all of their records digital.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, remember there's two fears of that one, Commissioner. Aside from all the room that those records take up, the weight of all those files upstairs is definitely something that's always had me worried. But they have them against the wall where it is the strongest, but that's still a lot of weight.
Right. I think Kel said that they are working on that, getting that going. It's just a tedious endeavor, I guess.
Yeah, and that's something we do have a meeting set up, Kel and I and Kathy Chazet and Kate. I believe it's later on this month to talk about the logistics of when that would be needed, I believe it's January of 2023. Is that right, Cal?
Yeah, we are in the planning phases, the planning to scan. So we're identifying records, record types, and each one of those record types has their own unique retention schedule and location. So we're doing that upfront planning. And then we're expecting that we would start utilizing, if we were to get the ARPA funds, we would start utilizing that January of 2023. And Jen is correct. We do plan on hiring 2 full-time dedicated clerical staff to be doing that work. And in addition to cloud storage and some equipment cost.
Now, has anybody applied for any grants? There used to be grants available for this some years ago. They come, they go. And then there was also money through the recording fees that allowed for us to do archival. Has anybody looked into any of those?
Yeah, so our department, Mariah Frazier, one of our clerical staff, she applied for, it was pre-COVID, so then things went on hold, but then we were asked to reapply and she did so. We received, it's just around $20,000. That isn't for the scanning project, but it was, it does allow for her to go over to Mel Chevrolet, go through the boxes that are in storage there, figure out what their retention schedule is, where they need to go and get kind of cleanup, which is what I guess the state archive office said, you know, in order to be eligible for future grants, we kind of needed to clean up the office first. So we do plan on, whether or not we get these ARPA funds, we do plan on continuing to go out for those kinds of grants. Because we have a lot more work with our records than what even ARPA. If we got the ARPA funds, we think that we would expend all of those funds and still have additional work to do. So we'll be doing as much as we can and just keep moving forward. So
it sounds like that could be something that we could move over to the next batch also, right? Because it's not needed until 2023.
Yeah, definitely. It would come with the next tranche of money.
Is there anything you could do now? If, you know, just looking at the numbers and what there is available from this year, if we cut these other ones back, I know there's one on there from Belfair Water, but I saw a note that says no documentation, and even though I'd love to help Belfair Water, no documentation, no money. That should always be our rule, I think. But is there anything a little seed money could do to help you to be kickstarting it early?
prior to January of 2023.
Yeah.
I can talk to Kathy about that. I think right now, using that archive grant we have right now, the small one, the $20,000, and our in-house work of just organize, coming up with our plan to scan, like I mentioned, identifying the records, record types, and the retention schedule and location. I think in talking it through, it's probably best to just wait till January of 2023, because we're utilizing us internally to do all that identification work that I don't think hiring someone new would be able to do that piece of it. So with that said, I would be completely comfortable in requesting when we get the next tranche. I believe that's in June. Is that correct, Jen?
Yes.
Okay. That would work for us in DCD.
Okay, and then I think we need to talk about the breakdown of the 500,000 too, and we can talk about that in April. And later on in our April meeting, and Cal, and maybe come back with a more refined number.
Yeah, because I know, IT department was looking at, trying to get to a better estimate on what that cloud storage, like how much are they going to need and what's that going to cost. The equipment is more known, and I think, you know, Kathy's got a good handle on what it would cost us for staffing and, you know, benefits and things like that. But it's the cloud storage that we need a better handle on what that's going to cost. So we can do that between now and then.
Okay, so we'll just leave it on as an ask for now. Is that what you want to do, commissioners?
I'm comfortable with that.
Yep, works.
Commissioner Nolan?
Yes,
Okay. Sorry, I can't see the head nod when
that's all right,
when the
Thank
screen
you.
sharing is happening.
especially when I'm reading sideways.
The real quick, sorry to before we move on from the signing bonuses, I believe that there's 2 people that they've been able to attract to our corrections division that would be eligible for the signing bonuses. Does the commission remember? There's criteria, right? So they got a certain amount at one point in time, and then they needed to wait for a period of time, had to kind of stay on before you got the remainder of it. So that's what Jen and I were talking about this morning, is that as we approach the end of the availability of these funds, how do we make sure and time it correctly so that they're still available to pay out when that second piece of the successful completion for the signing bonus occurs?
Yeah, you can't just put it in the sheriff's budget that, you know, it ends at the end of the year and comes back.
But I believe that there was timelines that you guys put in place, and it was just
There
before
were.
I came on, and I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I definitely will follow up with our sheriff's office. And
Didn't we also allow for something, commissioners, that gave a longevity or some other, I know we talked about it, for not just for those coming on, but for some of those that have been there to reward or to show appreciation or something for those not leaving?
Like a retention bonus?
Something like that. We talked about it. Did we not put it into place?
I don't believe that we did, but I think I would be open to that if Mark wants to have initiate that conversation again or reinitiate it.
Yeah, I agree. And it could come out of this immediately, you know, for this number. It'd be nice to take care of it in this round.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought we did though.
would be a better or an easier use of the funds rather than doing sign-on bonuses just for the timing.
Well, I think we needed both is what it was, because we didn't want, there was the fear that we give new people money coming in, and these ones that stuck it out during COVID and everything else were just ignored, and we didn't want that. That's why I know we had long conversations about it. I'm surprised we didn't build it in, because I know we discussed that.
Right. I know from previously, we also used some of the CARES funding, I think, for.
Is that what we did?
That we're continuing, yeah, that we're still here.
Okay.
Well, I know we did that, but that was from CARES. I don't think that we've done anything through ARPA.
Okay, so we'll follow up on that. Should we?
Real quick, Jen, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just wanted to confirm with the commissioners. So we have different groups throughout the county that were truly impacted differently through COVID, right? So our sheriff's office, our corrections, those folks continue. They had a number of challenges that just added to the list. We also had some individuals within public health who were really required to step up and provide additional services. Would you like to kind of, when we look at retention bonuses, would you like to look at those impacted directly by COVID that really required them to be in the office, be out in the community, working in the environment that was truly a challenge?
Well, we did do that. We gave a difference in pay for some of that, didn't we, guys?
I think that was Commissioner Trask. It was under CARES Act. I think it was for the first month or two in 2020. But I mean, I would be open to that conversation. I think certainly there are definitely offices that are still working under sort of the stricter COVID guidelines still, and kind of on the front lines of that. So I would be open to you coming back with some recommendations or some options to consider if the commission's on board with that.
I'm on board.
I think I'd like to take a look at all the county We had so many people, strong people here throughout the entire thing. And so I would not want to leave anyone out.
But we do need to be careful that we're not doing it in the form of bonuses and stuff, because that's not what this is, and that would get us in trouble with other stuff as well. Yeah, there was a 5% pay bump for those of us that were not working from home during the time frame. That's what I remembered. So we were paying them. We paid them 5%.
Right, next
Gotcha.
from CARES funding.
Thank you.
Okay.
So let me do a little research on that. I think then as we move forward, I think that there is I think we have to look at how do we retain the folks that we have here at the county and not lose them to other jurisdictions, and what are the specific areas that are being impacted most, and definitely can look into some of those details from a countywide perspective.
Well, and we are in some of the negotiations on some of those contracts. It may have to go into that instead of on the outside. But the truth is, I'd be interested in seeing what that looks like in the terms of, I don't even want to say longevity, just although longevity is an important aspect of it. So I don't know. I'll be open-minded. We'll see what we come up with.
Yeah, and Commissioner Netherland, I guess the way that I look at that is that there's longevity pay is something that continues,
Yeah.
on into the future.
Yes.
Whereas if we have the ability to weather a period of time when we need to retain employees,
Yeah.
then that's something that doesn't need to be done every year, but maybe we do it once.
Nope, I get you. Longevity compensation, like we were talking about with the corrections. And I'm on board with that type of concept. I'm not the other, but I still think it has to be talked into if they're union, that has to be put in contracts of some sorts to give anybody anything. We found that out with the corrections officers 8 years ago when we tried to up the pay for it, gives special benefit to the entry level. Didn't go over very well.
Thank you. Yeah, good to know.
Okay. So
That's all I had. Thanks, Jen.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So for now, then these items, these 4 items in yellow, we'll leave on as yellow until we get some more details.
Well, I thought we're also talking about moving some of it forward, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely move some of it forward. Do we want to go through the rest of these items first?
Sure,
Before we talk about moving anything forward?
sure.
Okay, so we have the EDC water line from 101 to the prison, $1 million. Belfair water backup generators, 197,000. EDC sewer line extension from high school to basin, 2.5 million. EDC Wallace Nealon substation, 3.2 million. Shelton Gateway, 250,000. And Mason County Courts Building 10, 750,000. This item in this light green, the grinder pumps, that is being brought forward, this 151,273. It's included in the amounts that are approved out of the 6.484 million.
Is Shelton Gateway ready for the money now?
The gateway, no, I'm working with Jeff on that. And so we'll be talking with Jeff Knighton.
Yeah, but they're not ready right now, though. If we're paying out of this one, we need to wait a little while.
Yeah, not quite. It's not ready. So can you just hold off on that one until I get more information from Jeff?
Yeah.
So the other, couple of the other issues on there, I had reached out to Councilmember Schmidt from the City Council to ask about the water line and the sewer extension. It sounds like the way that those are presented on our list are sort of an amalgamation of a couple of different projects and locations. And so I just asked for the city to provide us some updated information. So I'm not sure that we have everything we need to make a decision on either one of those. And just, I mean, I would just kind of park those for now, pending what they come back with.
Okay.
And I still think it should be under its proper heading. The EDC doesn't do any of these things. I think it should be under the city if it's a city project, PUD, if it's PUD.
Right, I think that those are just priorities for them.
Yeah, we can update the description.
I'd just like to highlight that the board hasn't approved any of these, so you don't see anything over in the board approval line item.
Yeah.
Jen and Kate have spent some time putting together criteria that the board can evaluate and adjust as we move forward. Since we are getting another disbursement of funds in June, anything left over from 2021 and what we expect to receive in 2022 can definitely go through this process of the criteria that they put together, if that's something that the board would like to do. So we won't lose track of these items, but we could definitely move them forward to go through the review process with the ones that you're going to be looking at for 2022.
Sounds good to me.
So before we get to the subrecipient questionnaire that's part of the briefing, did you want to, commissioners, go back over any of these and approve them now? The Housing Authority, the Prosecutor's Office, I think those would be the only.
Well, and personally, if you'll indulge me, I still think that the best idea is to go with the Housing Authority at 100K, not the 123K. If they have more that they can show the records for, then they could come back in the next round. 100 ought to be fine for what they're doing. I still like the idea of the signing bonuses to make sure we cover that, which we already told them to expend, that actually be paid out to them. And if there is a longevity or something else, that go out to them. And I don't know what that number would be, but maybe we allocate right now 25 or 50. And then I do think the prosecutor's office second floor expansion that they're in the process of, if we can fit the full 75, we should. That actually still leaves some money to the end. We might cover one of the generators or something that's necessary in Belfair, and they can reapply for the rest of them.
So I support all of that. I think that all sounds pretty reasonable at those levels.
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, so Housing Authority, 100. Signing bonuses, 25.
Mark, what did you think?
Yeah, let me do some additional research on that before we just place a dollar value with it. But absolutely, I think that we've heard loud and clear from all three commissioners that that's something you guys are interested in looking at.
Okay, so maybe we can say to him with a head nod up to maybe 30 grand if necessary.
Okay.
Is everyone in agreement with that?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Kevin Hansen on that one, just to see, or the sheriff's office, so that we can kind of get an idea. That way we're not just guessing.
So Commissioner Trask, just to confirm, there is in my mind, there's two different programs, right? So we have a program where there's a signing bonus that's already in place for correctional officers. And then in my mind, there's a separate item that we'd like to take a look at for retention purposes.
Right, that's what I was, yeah, that's where my brain was going anyway.
Great, thank you.
And I'm comfortable with that as well, with that understanding.
Okay. And then the prosecutor's office, 75,000.
Does that cover the total amount of the work that we did there?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, as long as it covers it, then I'm comfortable with that.
Yep, me too.
Okay, so those three things, and then plus the 151, 273, the grinder pumps, we will put on the next action agenda. 100,000 for the Housing Authority, the signing bonuses up to $30,000, and then the prosecutor's office, 75,000.
Where does that leave us number wise?
Let me see here. About 31,165 remaining.
Okay, and that's probably not enough for one generator then. I don't know.
The actual, the grinder pumps are included in that money, not the generator. Sorry, that's something different. I wanted to point out two more things before we move on. So I included a column in here for amount returned from completed projects. So far, we only have one completed project. That is the Mason County IT infrastructure, and there's $163 coming back. But so that's shown down here and included in this amount. But as projects get finished and there's money remaining, that number I'm thinking will be much higher, the 163. So we'll keep a running tally on that. And one other item that was not included in the requests is from the Arc of the Peninsulas. Kate found this in the Arpa file. It's dated August 23rd of 2021. It's a request for $35,000.
That's about what we had left, right?
Yeah. But I'm wondering if this didn't get included because it wouldn't have benefited people of Mason County. I'm not really sure, or if it was just a mistake.
What was it for? Because I know that they're getting an office. They're doing all kinds of stuff right here in Mason County now.
I believe it's just
I definitely think that there's a county nexus there. Tari Landsberger had forwarded that back over in February as well. And so I know that they're trying to support and expand their programming here. Yeah. And so I definitely think that there's a county connection. They do work at Choice High School, yep, among other places. So I would definitely be supportive of this. I think it's worthwhile, and I think it helps support vulnerable populations. So we can make the 35,000 work with what we have left. I would be supportive of moving that forward.
That's what I.
Would we need them to fill out the questionnaire? Because I think we had qualifications for the others too. Don't get me wrong, I'm completely supportive. But it seems like we had qualifications that they had to meet, so they had to tell us what the funds were going to be used for before we approved it.
It might be helpful if the letter is circulated.
Okay, I'll send that to you, commissioners. And so for now, we can hold off on this until maybe next briefing. Does that sound?
Well, how about if we just go ahead and move forward, and if there's no objection from Commissioner Trask, we continue to move it forward and get it on the agenda. This way it all gets taken care of at one time instead of separating them out. But if Commissioner Trask has an objection after reading the letter, then we pull it off.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not objecting. I said I supported it. I just want clarification of how the funds are going to be used.
Yes. I just meant you didn't like how they presented it, is what I meant.
Yeah, just skimming over the letter, it looks very generic and not, it's just like, oh, we need this $35,000. And, it's not really, it's just saying it'll help us reach our goals. And so it seems like maybe having them fill out the application would be a good idea, along with some of these other requests as well, or future requests. So just my 2 cents there.
So the other thing, so looking through the application and the information in the packet, and I mentioned this to Mark last week, and definitely want to have some conversation about this. The items that I submitted were definitely geared more towards category D, figuring out how to apply ARPA funds to the infrastructure projects. And I really did not put a ton of thought into how we would approach nonprofits or sort of service-based organizations, or really, things like signing bonuses or anything like that. So I think we need to have a conversation around how applicable this application is going to be to projects that are outside of the infrastructure requests. Just so that we're not making it exclusive to infrastructure, but being thoughtful about what other organizations might need. So like the ARC is a great example. They wouldn't necessarily be able to say that, I'm just looking at it, they wouldn't be able to say like, it's going to create X amount of jobs necessarily, or be able to expand or stabilize utility rates or anything like that that's in there. So just being mindful of that. So when we're looking at the criteria and the questionnaire, that we're not inadvertently blocking people out or making it feel like they can't apply because of some of those questions.
Good to remember that we used the EDC to help us with the nonprofits last time.
That's because I think that's in part because we granted money to the EDC to do that work specifically.
Right.
And so I don't know that we necessarily want to go through another process like that if we can just have some way to capture that within the application and questionnaire that we're building out.
So commissioners, the 6-page application, I mean, it does encompass all of the different categories of ARPA funding. So, I mean, of course, it is going to be more geared towards the water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure because that's more complex. But I mean, to me, it's not that far off from being a well-rounded application. But the criteria for scoring is very much geared towards capital, and we actually just took this right out of the CFP plan. So that's something that we could modify a little bit to give a little more weight or weight projects that are not capital.
Right. So it looks here, I'm looking through the NACO guidance for nonprofits. Some of their requirements is decreased revenues, financial insecurity, increased costs, capacity to weather financial hardship, challenges covering payroll, rent, or mortgage and other operating costs. So I'm sure that they would fit under that, and it would be easy for them to apply and meet all of those requirements.
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of still at the same place. I'm comfortable moving it forward with Commissioner Netherland's suggestion, and I think if everybody hasn't seen the letter, I think the letter kind of walks through some of those things about the services that they provide here, and so if we want to kind of refine it and ask for more information, I think that's fine too. But I'm definitely comfortable supporting the request.
As am I.
Oh, I am too.
Okay, so I'll circulate the letter to you, commissioners, and then how much did you want to approve? The full 35,000 or some other number?
What do we have left though? Do we have 35,000? I don't want to go.
Well, we have 31,165 out of this tranche of money, but I'm anticipating that there will most likely be amounts returned, that would make up for the 3,000.
That I'm comfortable with the full amount.
Okay. How about Commissioner Schutte and Trask?
Yeah, I'm good. And just looking at the numbers of some of the other items on there, I think we're going to have well over the 35. And my rough estimate.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah, I'm comfortable as well.
Great. Okay. Then we will work on that, getting those items approved and contracts if needed. So then the next thing is the subrecipient application. So this is just a draft for you commissioners, and I'll go ahead and share my screen so you can see that as well. So this application goes through and asks the recipients about federal programs, if they have any audit findings, things like that, and then goes down into, you know, what category does your project fit into? How will this project have a positive impact on the economic growth of the community? Community support. Has your organization solicited and received public comments on the project? You know, asking things like that. Project location. Oops. Project timeframe. Funding. And investment. So if there's anything else, commissioners, that you want on here, or if you think this is too lengthy, if there's anything you want removed, if you want to let Kate and I and Mark know, and then we can adjust it, or if you think it's okay, we can go ahead and start having people fill this out when they turn in requests. What are your thoughts on this, commissioners?
When would you want a response back? Possible?
Yeah, I mean, I guess within a week would be great.
I can give a few verbal things that I think now. I definitely do not think it's too long. When you're applying for money, this is an easy one that you've described. I just like the idea of having policy so that there is no questions. Everybody's on the same footing. I like how you structured it. I think you've done a great job, and you know, I have no problem with this, and probably whatever small adds will probably add to it, but I think you did a great job. And I feel comfortable with this going out to the entities that want to apply for money. I don't think it excludes anybody from anything that I've seen. I don't think it makes it so hard they can't do it. And it helps us to see any issues that may arise by us funding it. So.
Great, thank you for the feedback on that.
Yep, I'm comfortable with it as well.
Okay.
I am too. I was just wondering if you needed if you had a timeline. So, but I'm good.
Okay, great. Then, yeah, we'll start having people fill that out. That was easy. Thank you.
So I guess just for on that, so for what we've already committed to, obviously we didn't go through this process. So is this, you know, is this a prospective application? So I guess what I'm saying is, if you weren't funded but on our list, would you then go back to those organizations and have them fill this out for those, or is it just for those that would be wanting to add to the list from the date we approve this and forward?
Yeah, I picture it being for any new applicants or applicants that have requests that have not been approved. Is that what you picture, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, so basically the next tranche of money.
I think in order to be fair, that everybody applying for the next tranche of money should be on the same footing.
Okay.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And so I was thinking like along the lines of the the water line project or whatever. So that's on there, but not funded. Would we go back to the city and say, hey, if this is a project you're still interested in here, just tick through this list and fill it out, or not? And I'm not picking on them. That's just the one that's in front of me right now.
Yes, that is what I
okay.
anticipate happening.
And I'm totally good with that. Just want everybody to be clear that if you're on here and not funded as of now, that the expectation is that you're going to fill this list out.
Yes. So the items that we just approved today, the Housing Authority, 100,000, signing bonuses for corrections deputies up to 30, prosecutor's office, second floor expansion, 75,000. And then the ARC, 35,000. I'm thinking they should not have to fill this out. Is that?
I agree with that.
Okay. But everybody else moving forward, yes, they would fill it out.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Great, thank you.
Great work.
Thank you. Okay, so the last thing that we have is the scoring, and this I think does need a little bit of work since it was taken directly out of the CFP, and like you stated, Commissioner Schutte, this is very weighted heavily on capital projects. So I will email this to you, commissioners, and ask for more suggestions on what you want to score. And we do have a little bit of time on this.
I like the idea of scoring, but I would hope that we keep an open mind and not make it the absolute for everything, because there are some things that we just know in our communities that are needed. And I would hope the commission could make an argument or a discussion to strengthen that application for what they know is needed and what other ancillary things may not be on this list, be able to be on this list or questionnaire.
Yeah, I'll definitely read through it and provide some feedback.
Me too.
Great. Well, thank you. That's all that I have right now.
Great.
Thanks, Jen. A lot of work, both her and Kate really did a great job, and Diane, amazing resource for us all. You know, she pays attention to all these details and finds little tidbits that she sends on to the team, and they just worked really together on doing this work. So it's nice to have Kate on board, and Jen and Diane, as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is Kelly Frazier. Kelly, are you still available?
I'm here live at Building 10. So what I got in front of you, commissioners, is a request to approve to declare the TKE, which is ThyssenKrupp elevator, as a sole source to replace some elevator doors in the jail elevator. The jail elevator goes from the jail to the second floor to the courts. The doors that open up into the second court are now not operable. They're not working right. They don't work. That's not me.
We all jump for our phone.
One out of 10 times. So it's really not a safe place to put our inmates to take them to court. So they've been taking them up and around. So it's original. The doors that are in there are the original 1985. So the bottom door that goes into the jail is exactly the same, but it's in a little better shape, but it's in dire need now too. And they just don't make those parts anymore. So looking to replace both those doors. It's the amount of $61,218.30. And I'm looking for the sole source because it's ThyssenKrupp elevator. They're the only ones that work on ThyssenKrupp elevators.
Okay, commissioners?
Better fix it while it's 1 out of 10 than trying to deal with it when it's 10 out of 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and is this something that could be ARPA would qualify for ARPA?
I think we were looking into that, Jan and Mark and all. Yeah, I know it can be REIT. I think it can be REIT 1 for sure.
I believe that it can be eligible for ARPA funds. So you'll remember that when we initially started this, Jen had to go through a huge calculation to kind of determine what revenue loss was. And so we had a limitation. It was about 1.8 million out of all of these funds. And then the final rule came out from the federal government, giving us basically a $10 million threshold to put things under lost revenue. So that really has opened up quite a bit of opportunity for different projects under ARPA.
So I kind of like to add this to the ARPA list, but I absolutely move forward with
We'll make Kelly be the guinea pig for filling out the subrecipient agreement.
For when do we need this money? Does he need to have it approved before he can apply?
I really need this ASAP so we can get the ThyssenKrupp here and get them working on that. They're just waiting for my signature to get going.
And so, Kelly, you're going to be bringing this to the board in a regular agenda tomorrow for this?
No, I believe the 12th. I'm looking for the place on resolution on the 12th for the county, for the commissioners to let Mark sign and approve all the prior needs of that.
Because I think the only meeting we have tomorrow is the special hearing.
I'm sure we can do it tomorrow if you want to do it tomorrow.
No, it's a special hearing.
No, we don't have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the 12th is fine with me.
And Diane popped on quick.
The 12th will work. Yeah, we'll do it. We have to do a resolution for sole source. So it'll be on the 12th and that'll be fine. And his budget has capacity in the meantime. So we're good.
Okay, so his budget has capacity. We're just placing it in there for his budget and then we can replace it.
Yes.
Replace those funds.
When you do the budget hearing in June,
That
you'll
gives
have
us
to
a lot
replace
more
it.
time for the ARPA aspect. So yeah, Kelly, I'm going to agree with Commissioner Trask. Start sharpening your pencil. It'd be nice to see what one of those applications looks like filled out.
That's a real
I'll
life
put it on my agenda.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. Next.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Sorry, hold on. Let me jump back to my page that I had here. All right, the next thing was John Taylor talking about reallocation of emergency management performance grant. John, are you with us?
I am. Good morning, commissioners. This morning, I'd like to talk about the emergency management performance grant. The county's been receiving this since 2007, and it comes out every year. And specifically, I'd like to talk about year 2020. Each year, as they close these grants out, if there's remaining funds, the state issues it out to counties and jurisdictions to apply for additional projects they may have on a waiting list. We happened on 2020 to be able to supply 2 that we had on the waiting list. One was the UTV, which was a project, and the other were 3 CERT trailers that we would place throughout Mason County in case of an emergency or disaster. The one that got approved were the CERT trailers. So we're briefing you on this today. We have not decided yet where they will go. We're going to look strategically at the CERT teams that we currently have, the shortage of the equipment they may have, and make sure we put it in the most strategic place. This grant is a 50% match, which we currently already have in our budget that we can match. So we don't foresee any shortages in meeting the requirements. Are there any questions?
Commissioners?
Nope, I'm supportive.
I think it's a great idea. And let me know when you have those trainings again, because I would like to get recertified.
Yes, ma'am. We've hired a new training and exercise coordinator who starts on May 1st, so we'll be able to put those in the schedule.
How long do those certifications last?
They're good forever.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
What we'll need to do is put some exercises in place so that people feel comfortable in doing those tasks, because if you don't use them, you lose them. So
yeah, and I've attended several of them, and I went through the process also. I look forward to us offering them back out to the public on a regular basis so we could get them in. We used to get some pretty good turnout.
Yes, sir.
Before he leaves, though, I'd like to make a comment, but I want to make sure we take care of this issue first.
I think John, do you have everything you need from us on the grant?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to make sure you knew about it before we move forward.
Great. Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
So I attended a meeting, a public meeting in Belfair up at Sand Hill Park, and there was a comment made that I wanted to share with the commission. First, I have to give a little backstory. We also had a meeting, me and John, with some of the representatives, some of the youth teams a while back at the Burger Claim, and at which time they expressed some of their concerns, some of their needs and stuff. So at this meeting the other day at Sand Hill, I got pulled aside by one of the presidents to say, I just want you to know, I don't know much about this guy, but I can tell you the stuff we talked about at the table, we're being knocked off one at a time, and they're pretty impressed. And they wanted to let me know how impressed they were with John and how much they appreciated him. And so the other presidents had asked him to pull me aside to let me know that. And then their last question was, so by the way, I noticed on his card, PhD, do I have to refer to him as doctor when I see him? So, but I wanted to let you know that those youth teams were very, very impressed with him and were shocked with how quickly that list was being chopped in half. So, John, I wanted to thank you from my community on that one and to share that conversation that I had.
Thank you, sir.
Good story. Thank you.
Yeah,
Dr. John, wasn't he an artist, a musical artist, or Dr. John?
Oh, yeah.
yeah, very happy that John's here.
Great.
So great. So then, John, got what you need?
I do, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is I'm going to be bringing before the board a request to issue an RFP for labor employment services. So this would be help in us negotiating the contracts that we're currently working on. So end of this week, we will no longer have an HR director, and we are looking for resources to help us out. We've received a couple of references for these types of services and wanted to make sure that the board was comfortable in how I was approaching it. So I'm requesting that on the April 12th action agenda, you give me authority to issue this RFP. It's going to be open fairly. I need to get it done as quick as possible. So I'm only going to open it up for a couple of weeks. We're going to definitely target the individuals that we've been referenced to say, hey, please fill out this application form. And then hopefully we can get that done and have somebody on board, middle of May.
I support that.
All good. Okay, same here. Great.
Thank you. And now I am going to try and share my screen. Let's see here. So I pulled together some items. There we go. Can you see my screen right now?
Yep.
Big contracts.
Yep.
Yep. So this is so we talked a little bit about this last week. Kind of looking to see how can the county administrator best provide services to the board and to the rest of the county. And so been working with my team to kind of come up with some examples of things that we could start to look at. So I think that we've put some low-hanging fruit out there for you guys to kind of noodle a little bit. And then just to kind of give you a perspective of how we're moving forward. So I had a meeting last week with all of the directors. I'm including Diane and Jen in that process. And we're pulling together what goals do we want to get accomplished in 2022. So some of these things you guys are probably aware of. Some of these things you may not be aware of. Some are very project specific, while others are process specific. And what our plan is that once we kind of bring these things together, I'd like to bring them before the board, and we're going to come before the board and provide you our recommended priority list for each one of these departments. And then once the board actually agrees on what that prioritization list is, then how do we move forward with that in the most efficient way, right? So when you look through some of these things, you'll see if you've approved something in the budget process specifically, then would you be comfortable with me moving forward to make sure that that happens within that budget year? So when you talk about it, like the authority to sign orders for fleet vehicles that were approved in the budget, if you guys within the budget process said, hey, I'm going to replace 10 cars, then would you feel comfortable with me moving forward to replace those 10 cars throughout the year without bringing the decision before the board to have to make final approval on it? And I'm hoping that this can be kind of a discussion with you all. So as you read through some of these things, please ask questions.
Could you explain purchase to me, please?
So it'd be through the lease process through enterprise.
Oh, just the word purchase, that's what it means? Because I see
Yeah.
also authorized to sign orders for fleet vehicles approved in the budget and stuff.
Yeah, so which one? Oh, the purchase. Oh, that's because I didn't finish that sentence.
Okay.
Yeah, that is just that is an error. So I think that there are some purchases that, you know, would you like to kind of, so the board actually in your formal agendas, you approve a conglomerate number for claims, correct? So they say warrant number X through Y, and in the total dollar amount of whatever that dollar is. So that is the formal approval of the board saying that we are dispersing funds to pay these bills. When we're looking at some purchases, how would we like to formulate that? So if there's a process that we can go through to make it more efficient by having people come to me and I can approve some of those purchases. Now realize there are laws that we have to still abide by. So absolutely we'll continue to do that. So if we're going to go out for bid for something, although those larger items are still going to come before the board, awarding contracts still going to come before the board because that is a formal process that you guys need to do. But the other items where we have, like for instance, we currently have a resolution that defines dollar thresholds associated with contracts, and it gives directors and myself the authority to approve a certain percentage of those contracts based on where the dollar amounts are. So if the contract is over $1 million, then the director and myself have the ability to go 10% over what that dollar value is before we have to come back to the board to get specific approval. Is that something that you'd like me to look into and define what those levels are for purchases to say, hey, we're not gonna make individuals go through the formal process of bringing some purchases to the board, as long as they're within these dollar amounts.
There was one more that I had a question on. I'm trying to find it real quick. I mean,
the routine. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's right. So for the most of them, you know, I have some worries, of course, whenever we're doing these things, but I wouldn't if they were at least brought to us after the fact to let us know, and they don't just go away. For example, approved temporary hire class lead pay and stuff. I have no problem with you doing that personally, if you know it as it powers, but I would think it would be brought to us in an open meeting so that the public would know about it and that we would have the time to discuss it in case we felt it wasn't appropriate or there was an issue. Contract extensions that do have a budgetary impact. I think that should be brought to us as well, because there's been contracts in the past that were extended that actually led to a lawsuit because they thought it should have gone to the public. There should have been some stuff and we should have done some explanations. But we'd have that, if it was at least brought to us, then we'd have that ability to have that conversation. I don't mind you signing them and moving them forward. I don't see anything in here that brings up a giant red flag for me, just so you know. And I think I'm the one that's the most worried about this stuff.
That's great. I think that so my attempt is to try and say, or if there is a budgetary impact, Commissioner, then absolutely that's something that's going to have to be brought back to the board, right? Because you guys approve the actual budget. And then Kelly, I think that you're not on mute. Kelly Frazier.
What about the budgeted interfund transfer request? Is that the 15,000 or 50,000 for the sheriff's department?
No, absolutely not. No, this would be budgeted interfund transfers that are already there, right? So when we know that they're going to occur, I believe that they're bringing those before the board still anyway. That's something that I could just sign off on if it was included in the budget. Now, the specific requirements that the board has for transferring between salaries and benefits and operations, that definitely is a budgetary item that would still need to be brought before the board for anything over 15,000.
Yeah, our departments have done wonderful with not abusing that. I do want to say that, but even with that, it's always best if it's brought before us, as you said.
Absolutely.
Have that discussion.
Yeah, anything that's outside the boundaries of what you have approved within a budget, absolutely that stuff would still be brought back before the three of you.
So yeah, commissioners, as long as we are informed on these things on a regular basis when they occur, I'm completely comfortable with everything that's been brought before us at this point.
Thank you. Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, so am I. I think it's doing this is going to help me concentrate on my committees that take up a ton of my time anyway. But and if you look at the what a county administrator should do, this fits right in there. So I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to approving it soon.
Yeah, I agree. I think these are all really reasonable and fall certainly within my expectation mark for what you should be doing on a day-to-day basis on behalf of the board. I like that, we're calling out that some of these things are already decided when we adopt a budget or we do a supplemental to the budget. And so having that being our guiding document for the work of the year, I think makes sense to have you then go execute on those priorities that we're funding in the budget. And so, yeah, I think having the advise and consent sort of approach to things that, you get to sign off on them and just inform us of what's going on. If there are any red flags, I trust that each of us would raise those appropriately to you if we had concerns. And so I think you've done a fantastic job of communicating with us over the past 5+ months that you've been on board with us. And so I certainly trust your judgment and your expertise to be able to manage these things along with your directors and managers to be able to deliver on what we're putting forward.
Just one thing I just caught my eye, just to double check, please check with Tim on the authority to surplus anything. That may be something that has to stay with the commission. So please just double check that. I have no problem with you doing it because most of the time it's not a lot to it to say that, but just in case it may have to be anything surplus may have to go through the commission.
Yeah, I think that there's some of these that, when we are able to get a new HR director in place, I'm excited about some of the work that Deb already had really started talking about in terms of how do we evaluate these things and what are the processes that we can put in place here on the ground, right? And then communicating to the board is necessary. We want to make sure that you all are informed about what's going on. I think that the briefing time that we have on Mondays can be just a general discussion, right? I think that we can sit down and talk about these things as a group. And it's obviously presented to the public, so the public has the opportunity to hear what we're talking about and how we want to move forward with that. I'm really excited about the stuff that the individual directors are bringing forward, because I think that that's going to give you a better understanding of where we're at on a routine basis. and what specific things that we're working on. As an example, talking with Kel in a little bit of detail associated with kind of how she foresees development planning to continue to move forward. How are we going to evaluate how we're doing? How are we going to continue to implement opportunities within SmartGov, which is the application that they utilize over there in community services now? And then how do we bring to the board the status of things, right? So that you can see how quickly are permits being turned around. What are the general guidelines associated with permits, right? So for a commercial permit, those things tend to take a little bit longer than maybe a residential permit. What does that look like, and how do we continue to move forward and taking us down that path that Kel has already started from a lean process, but really giving the board an opportunity to be updated on those things in somewhat of a routine basis. I think that there's a lot of stuff coming up for public health too. Talking specifically with this, we're transitioning into an environment where we're going to have this foundational public health model. What does that look like for public health? Dave Windom has some programs that he'd like to bring back to Mason County that might have been here before, but now we actually are going to start receiving funding for those items. Both of those individual departments, or the divisions of community services, they're funded through funds that come in from the state to support those programs, or revenues that we collect from our fees. So I think it'd be great to keep an eye on that stuff and show the board. I really feel like we're kind of on a verge right now of development within Mason County as a whole. So I see the challenges on those staff as we move forward, and how are we dealing with these things? Do we have the necessary resources to appropriately handle the quantity? All those types of items can be discussed in a briefing type format.
Excellent. Commissioners, any other feedback from Mark on this?
I'm just really excited to see how Mason County is moving forward. We're growing. You're not going to be able to stop growth, but to see Mason County growing with it and heading into a great direction, or I feel it's a great direction, is exciting to me. So I think you're doing a great job, Mark, and Mason County is lucky to have you.
Oh, well, thank you. But I think that the work is really done by your directors and their staff within the departments. We really do have some amazing people that go above and beyond, and really the scope of their responsibilities are awfully broad because we don't have a ton of resources to throw at all of these individual issues. So you guys have done a great job in creating the team that you have now. And I want to make sure that we keep that team. So absolutely glad that when we're looking at things like how do we retain people, how do we attract folks? I mean, it's not always money. It's definitely an environment too. And so people are looking to Mason County to say, would I like to work in an environment like that? And I think that type of word spreads when you have an environment where it's fun and that you're productive and you can get things done and be recognized for the work that you get done. I think it's going to be fun to go through that process.
Mason County rocks, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'll continue to move forward on this. This isn't going to be the last. This isn't going to be the last that you'll see of this. This is going to be a working document that we're going to continue to add to. There are things that we may need to bring forward in a formal sense. So bring it to a regular formal agenda to make sure that we define specifically what these responsibilities are and what this position has the authority to do.
Very good. Anything else, commissioners, for Mark?
So I think you're ready to move on to Dave.
Well, before you do,
go ahead.
Commissioner discussion first, if you don't mind.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go for it, Commissioner.
Okay. So historically, our solid waste vouchers, I'm able to give a few out to help a few of our local organizations. And for a little while, we've been able to give a few to the city of Shelton, to Shannon out there, who does their basically, checking on the properties for the improvements, and she runs across the ones that are dilapidated and have different issues. She had held off this year, and I hadn't prepared for her to need for me, because she was going to get them from the organization that was passing them out, and somehow they had given them out before she got to them. So there's a need for some. I have a few that I can put aside. I was wondering if Commissioner Trask and Commissioner Schutte may have 2 each they can give me, so I could share with Shannon.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I have a couple. Yeah.
Commissioner Trask, can I get them from you? Thank you.
Oh, no, she might have to call me and talk with me.
Well, I can do it that way if you want to. However you want to do it. They just had asked me for them. I'd like to get them to them because they utilize them in a great way, I think, for the city of Shelton. Imagine going to the properties that are dilapidated, have issues, have trash, and say, hey, instead of finding you right now, here's a voucher, get it cleaned up, and we're going to leave you alone. I love that idea.
Definitely the carrot and stick kind of approach. Yeah. No, I'll catch you before you head out today.
Thank you.
Yep, so will I.
That's all I had.
Great. Commissioner Trask, anything before we move on to Dave? All right, Dave.
Hey, good morning, commissioners. So pretty short agenda today. So we'll start off with Kel.
Good morning. I am unfortunately losing Corey Bennett, our clerical staff, and he is going to Thurston County. So I'm requesting that we just post and fill, replace that position. And because we have an extra help clerical, and that person may or may not move into that position, I also want to have the ability to post and fill the extra help position as well.
What do you think, Mark?
Let's test it out.
I think this is absolutely a great example of what we can just take care of. I mean, these are budgeted positions, definitely needed. I think that it can be frustrating for staff sometimes that we have to, now wait until potentially, the 12th to get formal approval. So absolutely, great example. Good job, Kel. Way to line that up just perfectly.
Yes, although I'm not happy about Corey leaving. So if you guys have any bonus money around, he's leaving for money, not because of his supervisor, hopefully.
Okay.
All right.
So
and then the next would be Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right, Dave? Sorry.
Yeah, next is Melissa.
Good morning, commissioners.
Hey, Melissa.
I have 2 items in front of you today. We've got 2, the first item's Title 16 code language changes that were presented to the PAC last month and recommended to go before you guys. So I'd like to add that to the action agenda for the 12th. Those changes are all really administrative and some application kind of changes in regard to what we're looking for. And then the other thing is our 2022 Community Development Block Grant. We're applying for a water improvement project for Evergreen Estates, and the application to that grant requires a public hearing. So we would also like to put that on the action agenda for April 12th, and both of the public hearing request dates are May 10th.
Melissa, I'm not sure if this is who would be appropriate to answer this, if it's you or Dave or somebody else, but assuming we're successful in the CDBG grant process, I know we're just going through the first step, but looking ahead, who would be the grant manager on that? Is it us? Is it the city? Is it Public Works? Is it have we gotten that far yet?
So the way it's looking, we're going to be doing the application, probably be the grant manager and doing an MOU with the city.
Okay. So in DCD or in environmental health or where?
Through DCD with a lot of environmental health pieces to it. So
Okay.
it's gonna be a joint application. So the way we have it set up is Melissa's writing the grant and I'm listed as the main grant point of contact.
Okay. I think just when we get down the line with this and we're, like I said, I'm making an assumption that we'll be awarded it based on the value of the project, but just want to be able to line out who's responsible for what and, sharing responsibilities when and where possible with the city.
So this
Otherwise,
would,
good
this
project.
would require a surveyor from now on for any boundary line adjustments?
Yes. I don't think Michael's on here. But basically there's already a requirement in regard to surveys and essentially specific maps. Michael can explain it better than I can. But yes, it would require a survey and the surveyor would be the one writing the legal language. Essentially, where the point of it was to take the requirement off of the county to essentially make sure that the language for the boundary line adjustments is correct and put it on the surveyor so that when we go through it and we go through the whole application, it's easier and a faster pace for us to approve. And it's not, a lot of those like legal requirements for the language and stuff are not solely on the county.
So I'll jump in there. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Kel.
And Michael does have the best background on this. I see Patty McLean is on here as well because we've worked with her department on this specifically. So in the past, the title companies did a lot of boundary line adjustments, and when they quit doing that altogether, they no longer worked with clients to do boundary line adjustments. Folks were left out to work with surveyors anyway. And so we're just clarifying that. And I think it will assist with the, rather than having to do legal descriptions, the surveyed boundary line adjustments will make the process easier for clients, for us, and for DCD and for the assessor's office. And Patty, if I misspoke about anything or if you wanted to add, that would be great. Otherwise, I think that is good.
Well, go ahead, Patty. I see you unmuted.
I literally just walked in, so I kind of come in and just fell into the conversation. So I apologize.
Didn't mean to. We just, Melissa was just talking about the amendments to Title 16 and that we are now going to be requiring surveys for all boundary line adjustments since, the back history is that title companies formally did a lot of that work and they haven't been doing that for maybe a year or so that they quit doing boundary line adjustment. And so just the issues that DCD and the assessor's office have worked on over the year, or given those repercussions of title companies stepping away from boundary line adjustments, we've made these amendments to Title 16 and the requirement for boundary line adjustments to be done via surveyor with the intent that this is an improvement overall for both departments and for the customers. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to add anything or clarify if necessary.
Well, being we've been training with Marcy, I thought surveys were already required with boundary line adjustments because we always compare the survey that's recorded with it alongside the new legal description to make sure.
So maybe it was just eliminating the need for that legal description since we aren't having the title companies are no longer doing that work.
Well, I'll just share my concern. So my concern is we charge a significant amount for these boundary line adjustments. If we're going to require specifically surveyors and stuff like that, that's going to increase the cost for the customer. It may make it easier for the county, but it's going to increase the cost for the customer a lot, as they are very expensive. It's one thing to have a person that actually finds the markers and stuff like that. They're cheap, but surveyors are very expensive. Are we looking at cutting our fee, our cost, if we're not doing that work and putting it on them to pay for it?
As far as I know, there's been no discussion in regard to changing any sort of fees. Michael, Kel, and I can get together in regard to answering that question for you, Commissioner.
Well, there's Michael.
Well, look, it's Michael, our resident expert.
Hello.
I think he was thinking maybe being on for action agenda to answer any detailed questions about this. So we're kind of bringing him in off topic. But Commissioner Netherland was concerned about the increased fees or increased costs given the going from required surveys.
Right. So all BLAs will require a survey under this plan, which would be an increased cost. Or though I'd say right now, maybe 3/4 of the BLAs have surveys attached, but some don't. And so that would be an additional cost for those that had opted not to do that. And then also there's another fee increase, the health department that hasn't been finalized yet, but the health department is wanting to review boundary line adjustments as well, and they would charge for that.
I just met with a constituent who was very upset with all the different charges we have for the individual landowner and how hard it is. The one thing, Kel, just to share with you is I literally looked at him and said, I can tell you right now, there's not going to be much I can do because you're already working with one that's going to help you to get through it. And if Kel Rowan is telling you that you're in this situation, that it's real, then it's going to be real because she's a get to yes. She helps people to get through that. So he's already working with you on a piece out in Elma area. He's building a Highline home and he's been pretty vocal. So I'm sure you've talked to him, but I am concerned if we're going to put more cost onto the landowner, especially the small individual home person that wants to do one little parcel, that surveyor costs a pretty penny.
Right, and there's nobody else. The system right now isn't working. It was designed for title companies primarily, and they've completely withdrawn from the business. And so we're kind of in a crisis right now with surveyors not wanting to take the work on if they don't have a survey involved. Most other jurisdictions do require a survey, not all. Most. So this is not extraordinary in trying to streamline this into something that works in the 2020s versus the 1980s.
No, and I don't disagree with you. My question is more for the financing aspect of it. If we're going to take that off of our table, can we compensate back the individual and look at lowering the cost for them to do this? If instead of making an increase of how much do you think a surveyor is going to cost them, $1,200-$1,800 or?
It certainly could be that. I don't know. I don't see the receipts, but I think that's probably in line.
So that's quite an increase if they were trying to do that. Is just my point, commissioners, that we should pay attention to.
So along those lines, maybe Kel, can you email us the fee schedule for what we're currently charging for BLAs? And Melissa mentioned that the three of you might get together and just start having a conversation about what this changes in terms of our workload and role in approving these and that kind of thing. And so if you have that conversation and we have enough, we can take a look at the fee schedule and then maybe we can get back together on that element of it.
Right, and that main cost increase for the survey map is a fee that we don't have any control over, because that's from the auditor's office and that's set by state, by the legislature.
Okay. Yeah, so that's good to know too. So, looking at parts of those fees that we have discretion over versus parts that we don't would also be good to know. Much like our water adequacy fee, that gets charged. I get called on that one every now and then, and that's a gift from the legislature. So, Commissioner Nyland, anything else on that item, or does that information help for the moment?
Yeah, it does. I'm just asking us all to keep that in mind as we move forward. Kel, I'll get you the name of the individual that I had that meeting with. I couldn't pull it up quick enough.
Okay.
Commissioner Trask?
No, I think just a little clarification, and then we can move ahead. So I think the language, the first item, the language changes. Good with that.
It was Mr. Hughes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else, Dave or Kel, for us?
That's it for me.
I think I'm good.
Okay, commissioners,
Thanks, Michael.
anything for Dave or Kel? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Moving on to Public Works. Loretta and
Morning,
Mike.
Commissioners.
Morning.
We've got a fairly light agenda this morning and pretty routine, setting up some county road project numbers for some roads that we are planning to do a gravel road conversion on this year. And Mike is on board to give you a quick update on where we are on those projects.
Morning, Commissioners. We're asking for a resolution to create county road projects for Sunnyside, California, Kelly Hall, and Sunny Slope roads. This allows us later in the year to report to CRAB, which is one of the requirements. So I'm going to go over each road a little bit here. Sunnyside Road is it's actually about 2.9 miles of gravel surface. This year, we're probably going to knock off 1 mile of it. The reason for not completing the whole thing is there's a large culvert in that's going to have to be replaced, and I don't think we're going to get to that this year. So we'll get a mile this year, and then we'll work on it again next year to continue to extend our chip seal. California Road, we're all set up for that. That's 1.3 miles. We've marked some trees out there. Property owners seem to be very happy that we're going to make some improvements. So we do foresee completing that project this year. Kelly Hall Road, that's about 1.9 miles. What we are looking at there is shifting the road away from the river for about a quarter mile. And so we're going to be getting some right away from Green Diamond. So that's going to take some time. So we may get some dirt work done this year, but I don't think we'll actually convert the road to gravel, but we'd like to go ahead and create the CRP anyway. And then Sunnyside Road or Sunny Slope Road is about a half mile long, and we do foresee converting that road to chip seal this year. So all together, that's almost it's about 2.85 miles of road that we think that we have a goal to actually accomplish this year. So we're going to move forward with this program.
Commissioner Schutte, is there any chance that this road extends far enough to cover the one on California Road, far enough to cover the gentleman that we receive many calls for, that makes it clear what road they're in the introduction?
He is, I think, right in there. Yeah.
Yes.
I think
that is wonderful.
Seeing some road upgrades. Yeah.
That is
every little bit helps, right?
Yep.
Well, these are great projects, guys. This is exciting. Sorry, Commissioner, I didn't mean to talk over you.
Oh, that's okay. I just said I think it's cool.
Yeah. Excellent.
These have been projects that are, as Mike said, valuable to the community, and we've had real positive feedback. So it's nice to be able to do this work, and appreciate your support on it.
Appreciate you guys.
Excellent.
All right. Well, that's about it for our shorty today, commissioners, unless you've got some follow-up items or things for us.
Anything, commissioners?
Maybe just talk to Mother Nature and tell her to.
Right? We were happy to not see any blowdowns or little slumps or slides or things totally underwater today. But yeah, definitely spring bluster for sure.
I missed it. What was it? Was it yesterday or? Yeah, yesterday. I was up north and I was talking to my son, and I guess we had quite a system just blew right through Belfair and just created all kinds of havoc and damage. And he's out there running and throwing the tents down and stuff. And I'm looking at the skies where I was like, poor you, because it was beautiful. Up north a little ways, I never would have even guessed it.
Yeah. I guess the other thing, quickie, Mike's been out continuing the bridge inspection. So it's been interesting and fun to hear all of the reports and what he's spying. So our next bridge report will definitely continue to grow and improve and have a much clearer picture of what our future needs are on the bridge front. So definitely want to call out and appreciate Mike's help on that. One other quickie item, commissioners, of note, we did send out a reminder to our utility customers that for folks that are in arrears. So we're stepping up the game on, it's time to bring accounts up and due. So I want to thank Michelle Remen for keeping on point on that. And we'll see what that yields in terms of a customer response and keep you posted on that as well.
Loretta, maybe for next week or the following, could you bring us back a report of just an aggregate, how many utility customers we have in arrears?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And break it down by utility.
Prepared. Yep.
Great.
Can do.
Okay. Anything else, Loretta?
I think that's a bit.
Okay. Commissioners, anything else for them? Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, commissioners, I think we've hit the end of our agenda. Anything?
Just a little comment. Every time as we're getting closer, I keep seeing Paige Hanson on here. And I got to tell you guys, I'm getting, it makes me sad to see her leave. I know she's doing, going to be doing wonderful things in her life. But I got to tell you, when I first came here, that was a lifeline that I grabbed onto a lot. There was so much that we didn't know and we didn't have access to as a commission. So many numbers, there was just so much. And if it hadn't been for her, some of the things that we are benefiting from, and I mean benefiting from, would never have occurred if it wasn't for her. Also, when we were looking at total collapse and being unauditable, and I went in begging, we were trying to create things and work around that audit committee and stuff like that. None of that would have ever happened if Paige hadn't been the strong individual person that she is, to jump on board with these things and help move it on. Because I didn't know certain aspects of the numbers, and just having her in the corner made a lot of that stuff happen. And we sure benefit from her in more ways than we'll ever know. And I just hope we don't ever notice when she's gone and anything fall apart because of it. So, Paige, you're awesome. I just had to say it because I know we're coming close. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate you making mention of that. And I think we'll have an opportunity to say maybe a little bit more at our commission meeting next week. But it's been an absolute pleasure to work with Paige over my almost 5.5 years here. And she is just been an incredible wealth of knowledge and a fantastic resource, and not just us, but all the work that she does for our junior taxing districts and all the information that she provides to them to keep them on the straight and narrow as much as humanly possible. I think she's always there for them as well. And I'm excited for her, but in all the cases like this, when we're saying goodbye to somebody, it is definitely bittersweet, but definitely excited for the next chapter for Paige.
It's definitely going to be missed. How many hours did I spend in your office, Paige? Quite a few. You're amazing, and I know you're looking forward to your final days here, but I don't know that we are. I might go add pennies to your penny tray.
Excellent. Okay, commissioners, anything else before we conclude today?
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. All right, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.